feeling heavy and stuck lately, like the world around you is demanding a lot from you, and you are standing on the sideline like, nah. That's valid, because there are a lot of things going on, energetically, collectively, as well as the things we have to move through personally. And I'm not going to hold your hand while saying this. I'm holding my own hand. But it's probably not because you don't know what to do, but because you don't do what you know. You might have a self awareness without self obedience problem, and you're paying the price for it. That's exactly why I look kind of rough today. I haven't been to the barber in a long while, and I know how to fix that. But me choosing to not honor that knowing is the exact reason why I look the way I look right now. This is what we're working with today. I'm showing up, regardless. But it can be very frustrating if you feel like you are doing the inner work, you are aware of your own patterns, you know your truth, but you still find yourself in a position where your outer life doesn't seem to match it. And that's where you start to realize nothing changes as long as you don't move on the things you know. And we are not here to judge ourselves, okay? We are going to move through it with grace. To start this off in full transparency, I haven't been feeling like myself lately. I haven't been trusting life the way I normally do, the way I normally try to deeply trust and believe in it all, as much as I would want to. And it brought me to places where I wanted to stay optimistic. But I'm not going to lie, sometimes, most times, all the time, it felt like absolute torture. Yeah. Point is, as a result, I haven't always been fully obedient to my own deeper knowing. For a while, I got slept away. Slept away? Swept away. I got swept away. It's not funny. For over 4 years, I had poured every inch of my soul into my business to then see it all come down. And although I had all the answers logically, like you are above this is not your identity, pick yourself up, the whole situation, including lots of processing in other areas of life, left a bigger imprint on me than I was always consciously aware of. All with all, it was consistently pulling me back into my survival self, and I felt like I had lost all access to my willpower and my ambition. But what I actually lost was my tolerance for incoherence, my tolerance for misalignment, living out of alignment with my deeper desires, my true desires, the ones from the heart. If you push your system for a long time, with effort and force, giving something your all, often not even for yourself, but with others in the back of your mind, and you find yourself in a position where it still doesn't seem to matter, that it isn't enough, and it still led to nowhere, it makes you afraid of moving forward. And now I realize that part of me was holding back, because as long as you don't fully commit to things, they can't be fully taken away either. It's the mind trying to keep you safe by being one step ahead of disappointment. But the heart doesn't like that strategy at all. It's this underlying fear. And as long as that underlying fear gets ignored, you just keep running in cycles. And its fear comes in many forms. And I know that I am not the only one who's felt that. But fear is the opposite of what we need to create what it is what we actually want. And that whole story of everything was for nothing, it got a grip on me. It got a grip on me. And that's where most people get stuck. Because it starts to live in the body. And when something lives in the body, you need an integrated change of perspective. Because you cannot think your way out of that. Last year, despite all the inner work, I found myself back leaning towards the darker edges of life again. Into this almost nihilistic view. Well, that is not who I am. In the core of who I am, far from it. I always find a way to transmute things. But lately, even though I've been crystal clear on so many things, I also found myself questioning a lot. Because why things went the exact opposite way of how I carefully planned them to be. To be honest, I was a little bit offended, like, okay, you do that to me. I gave absolutely everything. Why? I was offended. The good thing is that it has led me to some answers. Mainly that I was humbled by my own disobedience. Yeah, I told you I was going to be honest. By God. Call it intuition, truth, your higher self, whatever you resonate with. But God does not fumble us. We do that by being disobedient to what God, higher self, truth, has put into our heart and soul. It's a needed correction, a redirection back home. Which home? The only real home, the home within yourself. The only real pain comes from not listening. All you have to do is to learn how to listen. Listen how? Actively. When it comes to others, we always know the solutions to all their problems. Did I lie? Did I lie? Without realizing that the word comes for you, through you. Be still. Listen. Recalibrate. Obey yourself and be consistent. Do what you said to do. The consistent, boring, repetitive integration of your own deeper knowing. That doesn't sound very sexy, I know. You want the heat. But it will eventually lead you to the warmth that you are actually searching for. This is an ongoing process of listening, recalibrating, and integrating. And it's not always easy with all the noise and outside distractions. It's not. Also, me sometimes tend to not follow my own orders. Well, I know that it's the solution to almost all of your problems. Obey yourself and detach from your emotion in such a way that it's no longer the core foundation of your decision making. Detach from your skill set when it comes to the terrible storytelling within your own head. Real awareness is not just seeing what's going on. It is realizing that in this moment, in the now, you are actively writing your next chapter. Not once, every single day. Through the story that you keep repeating about your own limitations. A story that is solely based on moments in the past where you told yourself that same story which created your experience and which will keep creating the same experience as long as you don't change the story. Detachment from emotions doesn't mean you don't feel them, you just stop identifying with them. I feel rather than I am. Observe. And bad news always seems to come from the left. So when you hear that voice, just acknowledge it. I hear you, but I'm taking another direction. Okay, I hear you, but that's not who I am. Remove your attention, take it back. Deny, redirect, continue. You have to do that in constant repetition in order to override old stories, patterns, behaviors. Feeling fear and moving despite of it, knowing that it has no power over you other than the power that you give it. Fear always makes you spiral down a darker path, and you have to catch yourself before the lights go out. Oh well. You get back in control of yourself through connection, silence, through finding anchors that show you that even if life doesn't always go the way you expect or want it to be, you can still trust it. Trust what? Trust yourself, trust life, trust the infinite intelligence flowing through all of existence. We only want to be spiritual when it's convenient. It doesn't matter how you conceptualize it. We all know that something greater than us is always present. It is the same intelligence that heals your wounds without a single thought or word is needed from you. And instead of forcing yourself to keep doing everything alone, move more into the sub-creator that you are created to be. When you move into cooperation with this intelligence, by continuously connecting to your higher self, your soul, you will feel less like you have to carry all this heavy load alone. It's always available. It's just that we tend to forget how to consistently connect with this energy. It seems like there are so many things that are pulling us away from that connection. It asks us to become more consciously aware of creating space to strengthen that connection and to keep it intact. Lately, I was a little off track myself, and it was this combination of exhaustion that has been building up throughout my whole life with the feeling of losing, having to start over, while being in this prolonged state of pressure, and on top of that, all the things that are happening in the world. I am truly the strongest person that I know. And at the same time, I'm quite sensitive. I care deeply about the world and what happens to others. I do. Which no one asked me to do. But it happens. It happens without my consent. And that means that it becomes a me problem when I don't protect myself for entanglement with things that I cannot change. I've worked in the most extreme environments and in deep ceremonial containers for most of my life. And not only worked, but also lived. So I've learned how to stay contained and separate things. But still, when there's a lot going on in the world, I can feel it, even without directly interfering with the outside world. And sometimes it makes me feel sad, angry, powerless. And I don't like that feeling. But sometimes it needs to be felt before you can transmute, transform, and transcend it. Lately, there have been moments that I knew exactly what to do. I can simply feel it in my body. My intuition always tells me. But nevertheless, I let fear guide me instead of the truth that I'm very aware of. And it's interesting because I don't feel like I'm afraid of anything. But the core essence of what was holding me back was still fear. Fear to having to put in all that effort again for it to maybe lead to nowhere. Fear of maybe not having what it takes, even though I have all the proof in the world that I'm very capable, but still questioning myself if it's enough. Could it be that outside proof has absolutely nothing to do with what you feel from the inside? Fear of sharing pieces of myself, showing up for others, to not be appreciated and valued in the end anyway. I know for a fact that a lot of people struggle with this, trying to predict the future, unconsciously calculating if your effort is worth the price you pay. This can become a mechanism to keep you safe and comfortable. But it's a broken strategy that leads to absolute emptiness, disconnect, and mediocrity. Your focus needs to be consistently pointed towards the possibilities rather than your effort. That is why it's so important to know exactly who you are and why you are here. For me, that is what changed everything. That is why I've created a synthesis. It is a system that is based on over 8 ancient systems that decode your original design into structure and lived reality so you can live, create, build a life that is anchored in who you truly are. That is the only way to not only unblock yourself, but also to real fulfillment. Everything becomes so much easier. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be one straight line to the top, because it requires self-honesty and integration. But the good thing is that once you know who you really are and why you are here, there's nothing that you would rather do than become fully integrated. Because you will feel and know that you will never become the version of you that can hold the life that you actually want by just pushing harder or thinking differently. You become it by obeying the version of you that is capable of creating it. The real you. That version of you is waiting for you to become the one that follows through on the truth that keeps you up at night. That version of you is waiting for you to become someone that masters the art of moving despite not feeling ready. Deep self-knowledge and awareness is waking up to the fact that the version of you that brought you to this point is not capable of leading your next chapter. Yeah, I didn't make up the rules, okay? And often the knowing is not the problem, because I know this all very well. And still, I had to remind myself that I was getting caught up. Caught up in what? In an old story that I have been telling myself based on an old experience, which lives everywhere except in the only moment that matters, and that is the now. And me disconnecting from the only thing that truly matters, which is the now, is the only thing that was creating delay and was holding me back from my next expansion. And that whole process of recalibration and integration, it doesn't end, because we expand until we die. It's our natural soul desire. Think about this guy. Oh, that's so funny sometimes. This guy. And I assume that everybody knows Eckhart Tolle of the power of now. And he was like, get yourself together. He was like, Eckhart Tolle is worth $80 million. Of course he wants to live in the now. He has a very enviable now. For the rest of us. For the rest of us, now is fucking bullshit. But all jokes aside, that is why it's so important to rewind certain experiences that left a mark on you and change the story that keeps getting in the way of the story that you actually want to write. because that is what leads you into this negative spiral. It's the story that you keep telling yourself. And for me, every time that I get caught up into an old story, the consequences become abundantly clear. Friction, misalignment. You cannot create, manifest, expand, elevate that what you do not fully embody. You need to obey your higher self. Not sometimes, always, with full commitment. That is what it means to be coherent. I like to say, coherence is the harmonization around one truth. Which truth? I trust myself. I trust Source. And I am safe to be who I truly am. Which means that you are the living, breathing embodiment of your actual design. And from that place, you share your gifts with the world. That is the only thing that puts you in a position for soul aligned manifestation, which I combine in one formula: focused awareness, energetic transmission, what people call frequency, plus integrated inner truth and awareness. Being, embodiment. To believe in something is to be alive in something. You have to live it. If you have built your identity around being self-aware, this is where you get checked by the grounding force of reality. If you feel that, that is where you need to rebalance, getting a little smack in the face to wake up to the reality that you might be not as embodied as you think you are. Oh, I know. Yeah, ow. And that is a good thing, because you can be deeply self-aware and still be not self-led. Yet. So why is that good? Because if you don't obey yourself and you don't honor your decisions, you create a gap between your soul's desire and your actual reality, which then creates structural consequences in the form of an angry ghost that is chasing you to represent your unlived potential. The feeling of constant humbling only happens when you in some kind of way ignore your own knowing. If you are not living your truth, you are lying. Lying to who? To yourself. And that always creates a disconnect. You can never fully accept yourself if you lie to yourself. It does not matter in which area. It's the subconscious mind that runs the show of your whole existence. It does not care about what you know, it only cares about what you do. The fact is that if you listen deeply, you already know what to do, but you don't do what you know. And at the same time, that reality is not something you're supposed to use to kick yourself when you are already on the ground. Absolutely the fuck not. The only question is, are you going through it or are you growing through it this time? Because growth means that you simply refuse to stay in the same place and that you redirect yourself, your focus and attention towards alignment and elevation. And self-condemnation has no place in that at all. Like none. Okay? Okay. Self-condemnation has no place in that. None. Okay? Just know that the longer you wait with responding to what you already know, the more you will spiral into delay, hesitation, and into experiencing the same things. If nothing changes, nothing changes. I can promise you that. After working with so many people at different levels one thing became very clear, and that is that people often call awareness healing, but it's not. Awareness is looking at the problem. Healing is letting that awareness reorganize you in a way that the problem stops organizing you. And when you are looping, it is a very clear sign that it's time to step out of a cycle that gave you awareness and step into a cycle that requires consistent obedience. Obedience to what? Self-awareness, looking at the problem, means nothing if you don't obey what you see. You have to move on the things that you already know. Continuously, even if it's at reduced capacity. Because I will be the last person that say you just have to push through. That is not what I'm saying. Ever. Been there, done that. What I say is consistency in the right things, the things that are connected to the real you, is what changes everything. There are so many moving parts. I haven't been feeling like myself lately, but I made sure to stay in motion, even if it's just 20%. It still counts, as long as it keeps you in relationship with yourself and the things that you actually want out of life. There's so much power in letting the truth be exactly what it is, without letting it stop you. The part that you are avoiding is that acting on your knowing is grounded, repetitive, and slightly insulting to your higher awareness, your elevated consciousness, and often not as glamorous as we would like it to be. I agree. I do. At the same time, we often say that we trust life and the higher intelligence streaming through everything. But what we actually mean is that we trust God, Source, to do exactly what I think and feel should happen. That's not trust, Chula. That's control. That's you trying to override the reality of what you feel and experience with spiritual intellect. That's why I share so openly, the highs and the lows, because there's no high without the low. The human experience is very real. It needs to be felt. This whole idea that you can be high frequency while ignoring the lows has nothing to do with being aware or elevated, but with the now. And if that's where you want to be, that's fine. But reality will always catch up and check your floating ass. Calm down, baby. But no matter what, do not judge yourself. It happens to all of us. It's part of the human experience. It's just that not everybody's honest about it. Okay? Just use it as redirection. Like, okay, chill. Okay, got it. Thank you. Chill. In the end, seeing things for what they really are is the only thing that sets you free. Even if it pisses you off at first. Real freedom does not come from avoiding reality. It comes from facing it. Reality, what is reality? Reality is what remains when you stop negotiating with the truth. I only care about truth. And people always say, yeah, you cannot say this or you cannot do that because you have to look like an authority, you have to be the authority. Like, why would you want to be that? When we already fell for the trap of becoming an adult. No, please no. But seriously, that is nothing you should ever have to put any effort towards. An authority is what you naturally are when you are the living, breathing embodiment of the things that you say you believe in. Walk the talk, it's that simple. We can fool a couple of people, but never ourselves. Why would we hide the places where we still have things to learn? That says a lot about the unrealistic expectations you put on yourself. It indirectly and directly states that you don't allow yourself to be human, well, good luck with that. I don't have to act like anything as long as I trust myself in the things that I know to be true and actually live them. That is the work. And even then, there's always room for a change of perspective based on learning more along the way. Everyone is so busy with looking a certain way instead of just being who they are. Which also means being honest about where you stand and where you are, especially towards yourself. It's so freeing because the only road to true fulfillment is knowing exactly who you are and then learning the skills, gaining the right tools to build your life around that, every area of your life. That is single-handedly the best investment you will ever make. Knowing who you really are on a deep level and then using that, only that, as the core foundation of everything that you build and create in your life, in every area of your life. Business, career, relationships, everything. We people want all the magic, which is very available to us. We already have proof of that. But we often don't want the parts where magic must be created within the mundane. The phases in life where nothing looks special from the outside, while everything underneath is changing. Like bamboo. Change that is created by doing that thing that your truth told you to do over and over and over and over again. Especially when it feels boring, especially when it feels like nothing is happening. That is where most people give up, and that is exactly where your life starts changing. All problems and delay directly stem from disconnection and misalignment, which are both indicators of disobedience. Disobedience to what? Disobedience to source. Disobedience to the truth of who you are. Who you actually are. You already know what to do. The only question is, what do you need so you can actually start doing it? Because you know in your heart and soul that you have what it takes. That's it for now. Ik ga het hierbij laten. Honor your inner space and carry yourself with grace. See you next time.